As the nights continue to get longer and secrets continue to be revealed, our lives are shifting before our eyes, and we approach this Scorpio new moon with a sense of completion. Hi, my name is Carly, and this is Water Within Astrology. I'm here today to talk to you about the Scorpio new moon happening on November the 20th, 2025 at 1:47 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So please adjust your timing according to wherever you're located on the planet. Scorpio is known for its intensity, and this new moon is nothing short of that. We see a lot of beautiful aspects being made in the sky, but all of which are equally notable. So let's get into it. First of all, this new moon is occurring at 28 degrees of Scorpio. And like I said, Scorpio is known for its intensity, and the ending degrees of any sign are said to have been cranking up the energy to 11. So this could very well be a shocking time for us. It could involve some really heavy subject matter, so I'll go ahead and put a trigger warning out there because what I'm going to be talking about might trigger some people. And, that's Scorpio. Scorpio comes with a trigger warning. Scorpio brings up the unmentionable, and it brings the darkness to light. It brings the dirty, nasty, shadowy, demonized parts of ourselves into the light. And with this being a new moon, meaning that the light of the moon is not visible, we are going deep into the darkness, and we might not be sharing that with anyone else. It might be things that are so deep and personal that we keep to ourselves because it's precious and we protect it, not out of shame. And that's what we're going to be learning together through this lunation. 28 degrees is known as an anaretic degree, and we not only have the sun and the moon both there at 28 degrees, we also have Mercury there at the exact same degree point, 28 degrees of Scorpio. Mercury went retrograde on November the 9th, where it began its retrograde journey in the sign of Sagittarius. And now it has retrograded back, and on the 19th, it transitioned back into Scorpio. So we've been in this territory before, which means that whatever's coming up for us now could very well be something that we have had shadows of appearing in our lives, maybe subtle signs and inklings that something would be brewing up to a boiling point later on, and now here it is at the boiling point. And Mercury retrograde in Scorpio is dealing with repressed feelings of shame, repressed feelings of intense emotions, frozen emotions, specifically with Scorpio being a fixed water sign. Fixed water, I think of ice instantly. And I think of how Scorpio is known for being this fiery water sign, and I think of lava, which is this element that comes through and it just completely incinerates everything in its path. And it's almost like an otherworldly element, lava. And it is so destructive, but it also transforms the land, right? After lava comes through, like in Hawaii, where we see there's an active volcano there, and this frequently happens where the lava comes through and it creates new black sand beaches, and it completely changes the landscape of the island. And yes, there's a lot of destruction, but there is a birthing of a new island that's coming through just from the lava flow and from it building up over time underneath the ocean's surface, and it's building to create a whole new island. So the lesson I think that Scorpio brings for all of us is that alchemy is a difficult process, and it's an uncomfortable process, but it completely transforms us permanently, and there's no going back. And whatever we're feeling so intensely is showing us a deep shift that needs to take place, and a soul level shift. And so tapping in with what our soul needs in this moment is going to be our best medicine. Understanding the nature of Scorpio is a death and rebirth process. So whatever is being called in your life to come to a closing, with these ending degrees, that's why it's going to be a little bit more like a ending energy rather than a new beginning like a new moon typically is. The new comes after the old has died away, and so they're simultaneously occurring almost all the time. And life is never stagnant, and there is no such thing as something that is not always changing in the universe. The nature of the universe is change, constant change. And when we resist change, we resist life itself. And so what part of us is coming to a completion, and what part of us have we maybe been struggling to let go of that now we have the strength to do so, and we have the permission. So we have these three planets, the sun, the moon, and Mercury at the same point, 28 degrees of Scorpio, opposite 29 degrees Uranus in Taurus. And so this opposition, Uranus moved back into Taurus on the 7th of November. And so it's been moving slowly, and now it's still at this 29 degree point where it's hanging out for a while in its retrograde phase. And this opposition is bringing up things from the past that we may have wanted to push off and push down and repress, and now is coming to the surface. And now it's coming to that boiling point where it's like you can't push it away, you can't deny it, you can't, ignore it. And the secrets are coming out, and the information is coming out, and it's shocking, and it's ultimately liberating with Uranus, and ultimately, hopefully, it is also revealing to us where we need to improve our sense of self-worth, and where our self-worth is being compromised, and where we need to protect ourselves with Scorpio. And those are some big, deep revelations. So being really gentle with ourselves, getting into that Taurus, getting into the body, and knowing what our body needs to recalibrate and to reset and do all these re-words with the retrogrades. Review, rest, all of those things, especially with Taurus and Scorpio both being feminine. There's a call to come back to the feminine, and call to come back to the resting and the passivity and the receptivity, right? And so giving yourselves that permission, giving ourselves what our bodies need, giving ourselves what we need mentally to recalibrate. And so the opposition of Taurus, Uranus and Taurus, Sun, Moon, Mercury in Scorpio is the core of what we have forming at this new moon, which is a kite formation. A kite formation, like I've mentioned in past videos, is a grand trine with an opposition. So imagine 3 points connecting in the shape of a triangle. That's our trine. And in this case, it's a grand water trine that's been forming and building and holding for the entire month of November so far. And that third point, Scorpio, at the tip is opposing Taurus, which creates that opposition, which creates the base of the kite formation. And a kite formation has that point, right? And the point here is that new moon in Mercury Cazimi in Scorpio. Mercury Cazimi is when the sun and the moon are at the same exact point in the sky, and this happens quite often. So this is when Mercury and the sun are at the same point, and it is said to be in the heart of the sun, and it's being invigorated with the sun's light. The sun represents wisdom and purity and idealism and the light of consciousness, the enlightenment, the revealing of things and bringing them out of the shadows so that they can be seen and that they can be known and they can be conscious. And with the moon there too, it can be illuminating that unconscious aspect of ourselves, the things that we do maybe have in our blind spots of our psyche that are deeper, very scorpionic themes, things that are psychologically occurring without our knowledge, that are kind of like old programs running in the background that are called now to the surface to be released. And the other two water signs, of course, we have Saturn and Neptune in Pisces at the final degrees. And then we have Jupiter in Cancer at the final degrees. It's actually at 25 degrees for all three of those, except for Neptune in Pisces is at that 29 degrees. So it's really, the opposition, if you want to get more technical, is, Sun, Moon, and Mercury at 28 degrees, Neptune in Pisces at 29 degrees, Jupiter in Cancer at 25 degrees. And with that being a looser conjunction there, it's still our grand trine. I think it perfected on the 16th, or the 15th of November. And now we are seeing the grand water trine just still being in effect, just not exactly at the exact points that it needed to be. But nevertheless, it has still been the energy of the entire month of November, especially because we also have Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio, and she is at 26 degrees. So she's in the mix too. Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio doesn't take no shit, and she's not afraid to walk out of the garden. She's not afraid to break the rules. She's not afraid to take no, she doesn't take no for an answer, and she is not afraid to stand up for herself, and she knows her worth. And I think she's been working with us all at this time, and she's part of the divine feminine rising, and all the water signs are part of the divine feminine rising. Water and earth signs are feminine signs, and when I say the divine feminine rising, I mean a return to the divine feminine in a way of returning to that feminine consciousness, having a relationship with the feminine aspects of life, the creativity that we all possess, the ability to create, whether that's art, music, whatever it is, any sort of creation. Like, it could be as simple as creating a meal for yourself. And every time we create a meal for ourselves, we're using that creativity. And, how much of the world has kind of been disconnected from the ability to create in a way that is freeing of the soul, and the soul has been kind of just like trapped in this male only mentality, which is constantly doing, constantly running around, constantly needing to prove oneself, perhaps maybe needing to just constantly going and going and going, and not giving themselves permission to rest, not giving themselves, maybe any positive affirmations to help them keep going. Maybe they're running on a power over monologue in their minds about how I just need to keep going and keep grinding to prove myself, or because I'm not good enough, or whatever it is. Those things are running in the background, and we can maybe really hear those inner dialogues now with Mercury being right there. Mercury rules messages, it rules the mind, it rules daily habits and routines. So any of those themes could be coming up, and we're getting weird with it with Scorpio. Scorpio is an absolutely mystical and symbolic and the deepest sign in the zodiac as far as I'm concerned, and I think most would agree, especially with it being co-ruled by Mars and Pluto, And Pluto is the god of the underworld, and it rules the psyche. It rules what's lurking underneath. It rules the subconscious realms, the subterranean realms, the dark parts of us that we try to push away, and we try to ignore, and we try to pretend don't exist. And now there is a reckoning where if you have gone your whole life denying and scapegoating any bad parts of yourself, quote unquote bad parts, they're not bad. The whole concept of shadow work is about befriending your shadows so that you can integrate them and become a more whole person. And I love what Moon Omens put in her video about how the day is a whole 24-hour day is including the sun up and the sun down, the night and the day, and that is what makes it a whole day. It wouldn't be complete if it wasn't both. And we are the same way, and we live in this world where that is the program, right? That's the matrix we live in, where we live every day. We have a day, we have a night. We live in this collective illusion of a planet. And when I say illusion, I just mean because we're all experiencing this together, there is some sort of collective illusion that we're all experiencing together. And what does that even mean? Like, I don't know. These are the questions. Like, these are the deep philosophical ideals that Scorpio wants to talk about. Like, Scorpio wants to know what the mysteries of the universe are, and possibly she already knows, because that's the divine feminine. She holds all the codes, and she has deep magic, and she has she has amazing power, and she is the creative force of the universe, right? Like, feminine bodies can create life, and they can house life, and that is a portal between the other world and here, and that's what Scorpio is she opens up the gates to the underworld. And that can sound really scary, demonic, whatever, dark, but those other realms and those underground realms are where the treasures are hidden, and where our gifts are just waiting to be alchemized. Because when we start to work with our wounding, and we start to work with our trauma and these parts of us that we have rejected, we start to work them into being actually our gifts of power. And so think of like treasure hunting and going underneath the surface of the earth to locate the diamonds and the gems, and those gems are hidden, and it's a difficult process to excavate them. But once we have those gems, we are so, we realize that the work was well worth it. And that is Scorpio. She is not afraid to turn away, or to turn towards the work that needs to be done. She's not afraid to permanently change and to let the old parts die and become a whole new person. And, she is a transformative force. She is the butterfly. She is the scorpion, the eagle, and then the rising phoenix. And I think especially with Sagittarius being where Mercury initially was going retrograde, that is reminding us that there is a light at the end of the dark tunnel that Scorpio takes us down, and the transformation that Scorpio takes us through, at the end of it, we get to be brand new, and we get to remember that we are the rising phoenix in Sagittarius. And we then have the power to aim our bow and arrow like the centaur in Sagittarius has, and we are able to take aim and shoot our arrow at our goal and hit the target every single time. So now is a really beautiful time New moons are always about setting intentions, but especially with this Scorpio new moon, I would say setting intentions right now, because the magic of Scorpio, you just don't get that kind of deep mystical energy with every sign. And Scorpio, that's the gift that she offers us, is that transmutation, that alchemy, that true mysticism, that true way of, transforming your life and who you are, and going into a place, becoming more introspective perhaps during this time, especially with the retrogrades, that, to connect with our magic, to connect with whatever it is that we consider to be sacred and sovereign, because Scorpio rules those things as well. And she is the guardian of what the mystics understood, and that is the Kundalini energy, the creative force of the energy, of the creative force of the universe, that the ancient yogis worked tirelessly to create the practice to awaken this energy and to manipulate, using that as a force of magic to get our lives where we want them to be, and to really take our power back in our own lives. And I think that is a really deep subject matter, so I will save it on that. But knowing that magic is available to us here, and that demystifying these types of taboo subjects is what Scorpio does best, and she invites you into the occult, and she invites you into the secret realms, and she invites you into the deep mystery of it all. And she also reminds us that we have the ability to see in the dark, and that we do have a support system, whether it seems like it or not. Like in our most intense and desperate times, we do have a mystical support system, whether we can see them or not. We can always tap into those other beings, those angels, those guides, those ascended masters, whatever it is. It could be Jesus or whatever for you. I would assume that if you are watching this video, you're open to the awareness of other beings like angels and ascended masters and so forth. So remember, you have support. Remember that there is so much that happens in the unseen realms, and I think there's a certain level of avoidance that most of society has around this idea, because they fear the unknown, and Scorpio rules fears, and it is the scorpion, right? It's this thing that is ready to attack when it feels threatened, and sting, and it can easily be triggered, and it can be caught in those intense feelings and get caught up, like spinning out of control, and so on and so forth. It's up to us to learn how to understand when we're being triggered, and to observe when we are being pulled into those fears, and try to rise above like the eagle and fly above those base instincts that keep us in fear and fight or flight. And when we start to come out of those things using techniques like meditation and therapy and whatever else, personally, I recommend meditation for becoming the observer of your experience, and that can be a complete game changer. That can be the change that you are needing to make in your life right now, and that's a permanent change. Like once you start to go down these rabbit holes of healing yourself, Scorpio is the great healer. It's got the poisonous tail, but it's poison in Scorpio, and poison in the right dosage can actually be a really healing medicine, and it's all about dosage. And so keeping the intensity, knowing that there are intense parts of ourselves, and that's period, and like denying that is not getting us anywhere, but also learning how to give ourselves compassion around the intensity and around and loving ourselves for like what we're passionate about and what we have intensity around, and softening the intensity with love and compassion into a not something that's more digestible or more easy to manage or whatever. It's more like reframing it and knowing that the passion that we have for things, and when we feel intensely about something, that is our soul speaking to us and telling us and reminding us and making sure we don't miss what our soul came here to be part of. And those things speak to us so intensely because it's in our soul contract, and because part of us, some mystical part of us, knows that that is what we're meant for. That is what's meant for us. And so listening to those, it can be subtle at first, intuitions, but allowing, just like any muscle, we can work our muscles and grow them and continue to practice. And the practice begins with becoming the observer and observing where we feel those subtle intuitions, observing where we feel pulled into our base reactions and instincts, so on and so forth. And there's a wealth of knowledge there for us in the stillness and in the state of awareness that meditation puts us in, and the healing that can occur through the practice. And so, this new moon is when the moon is gone from the sky, and so it's a pause. The moon needs a break, and there's a inward type of energy with every new moon, and there's an inward type of energy with Scorpio in general. It's like, when's the last time you've seen a scorpion just out and about? You don't. They're always hiding. And yes, this could be out of fear, because scorpions are small and they are prey to a lot of things. And so asking ourselves what is happening when we retreat, if it's coming from a place of fear or if it's coming from a place of protection, or rather out of knowing our own worth and knowing that we are allowed to be picky about who we spend our energy with and who we spend our precious time with, our precious life, and allowing those circumstances and things to change if things have been shifting for you, and you're having to let go of certain relationships, certain jobs, certain habits, certain anything. It can be anything. If you look at where Scorpio is in your chart, you can look at that house number and you can see what it might be covering for you. And if you would like, I can always do a reading for you. If you are interested in hearing about how this Scorpio new moon is occurring exactly for you and your chart, I would love to offer those services. And I also just want to say that with Scorpio, she is deeply misunderstood and scapegoated as, a beautiful example that we're seeing is with Wicked. The movie Wicked is, last year it came out, part 1 came out around this time, and now we're having part 2 come out again in Scorpio season. And it's all about using the Wicked Witch as a scapegoat for basically everyone who lives in Oz, using this as a scapegoat that we can just point the finger and say that she's the evil one and that makes us all good. If we continue to just point a finger at this thing that's bad, then we get all the blame taken off of us and all the responsibility and all the, accountability taken away from us. And that's what we tend to do with Scorpio. We will put all these things in a category, all these things that Scorpio rules. She rules magic, she rules secrets, she rules jealousy, envy, she rules sexuality, she rules the creative force of the universe, like I said. that Kundalini energy. She's that mystical force. And all of these things are mystified and they are demonized in the eyes of typical society because people fear the unknown, and the occult is hidden for a reason because there is healing there, and the healing is for those who seek it, right? And for those who are willing to do the work, and those who are willing to travel to those darker places within themselves to reveal the secrets, and the secrets that we all hold, like the secrets of our soul, the secrets of the universe, and the secrets of how we get to have a magical life. Like, we are entitled to having a mystical, spiritual experience here in these human bodies. And it's as mystical and magical as you want it to be. And I think we are deeply disconnected as a whole in society from the mystical nature of life. And that is the feminine. That is the rise of the divine feminine. And the more we continue to realize that life is mystical, life is always talking to us in subtle intuitions, and that intuition is our connection to the spirit realm at all times, that we always have access to, that we just have to continue to come back to and reconnect. And we are done pretending that the synchronicities aren't real, you know, and that the coincidences, you know, they aren't real. Those are the synchronicities. And can we hear the universe speaking to us? Can we get quiet enough to hear when those mystical signs and symbols and synchronicities are coming through for us? Because it's possible for us to miss it and for it to remain in the dark forever. And wouldn't that just be a tragedy? Wouldn't that just be sad? So the snake is also a lesser known symbol for Scorpio, and the snake also represents that divine feminine force, that serpent force. That Kundalini is known to be a coiled up snake at the base of the spine, and that snake-like energy awakens and travels up the spine and out to the chakras, and finally it reaches the third eye chakra, where it awakens cognitive thought, and it awakens that third eye intuition center, and it awakens the ability for us to connect with the intuition more deeply. And that, I think, goes hand in hand with the Mercury as well, because Mercury is about logic. Mercury is about thinking things through and having the facts. And the facts are coming out now. Science and mysticism are coming together, and they are working together to awaken people and to awaken the collective. And I think it's beautiful how there is so much research that we're doing, cutting edge research right now in 2025, where the mystical is becoming demystified, but I think it's because it's time for those things to come into the collective so that they can become widely known healing tools that we all have access to, that we all, you know, for years and generations, the holy books and the holy ways and all these healing modalities were exclusive to the monks and the gurus, and now everything's out. Everything is there in it's, you know, it's there if you want it. It's available, and it's like you just have, all you have to do is ask, and all you have to do is seek it, and it comes to you, and it is there. So yeah, give yourself permission to go there if that's what you want. And you know, whatever that means for you. Like, don't shrink yourself. Don't retreat. Don't let fear run your life. Yeah. Don't be afraid of being a snake that sheds its skin, right? The snake year is the year that we're in here, and In February, we will be moving into the year of the horse, and I'll be making more comments about that later. But this snake year is still with us, and we are still at a point of, it's almost the end of 2025 now, and looking back at the beginning, at February onward, what shedding have we been through? And maybe you've been through a bunch of transformations, and yet again you're being asked to go again. That's the tenacity of Scorpio too. And that's the relentless transformation, right? Like it will go through as many transformations as it has to in order to get to that point that it's meant to be at, that its soul knows is them. And maybe now you're looking back and you're saying, I haven't really changed that much, and there's been a resistance with that Taurus energy of Uranus. It's got a resistant energy to it, and then the Uranus is coming through and it's saying, boom, it's breaking through that stubbornness, and it's giving you that freedom that you might have been resisting, and maybe you still are going to be resisting even when it comes up. You might go kicking and screaming, but that's Scorpio too. Scorpio drags you down to the underworld. Pluto drug Persephone down to the underworld, and he, turned her from maiden to queen of the underworld. And at the end of the day, she was grateful to Pluto for the transformation that she went through, and she came to love him for the transformation, and for gifting her the initiation into this next stage of life. And so, I'm not saying that any of us are gonna get be thanking this situation right away. It might take some time. It's not an easy energy right now, guys, and so just really be compassionate with yourself, and really turn to your tools, and turn to the mystical, and turn to the woo-woo stuff that is like, oh, pseudoscience, like, people are trying to debunk all these healing things because they're afraid, and because they don't want to understand, or they don't want to see for themselves. Those things are available to us, like yoga and meditation, and spell work, lighting a candle, staring at a candle, and connecting with our thoughts, and connecting with our experience in a mystical way. Whatever that looks like for us, like you can make anything mystical. So there could be a lot of house projects that are coming to an end with that Jupiter in Cancer. Maybe not to a complete end, because we still have Jupiter in Cancer until next June. So if you're going through it like I am with a house project, it is not even close to being done, but actually a portion of it is getting close to being done. So I'm feeling a sense of slight conclusion there. Maybe that's something that's coming up for anyone out there. And I wanted to talk about how, Scorpio is a very deeply symbolic sign, and it speaks in symbols. And I was looking at the symbols of the Grand Water Trine, and how it's Saturn, Jupiter, and they are the same symbol with a sickle-like, half moon, crescent moon shape on each of them, but pointing opposite directions. And I thought about how it was inverted, right? This is the same symbol, just inverted. Both of them having that sickle. Scorpio is like the invert of what we consider to be good and pure and stuff. Like it's the inversion of it. And it's like the yin yang, right? You can't have the good without the bad, and that Scorpio reminds us that. And then I thought about the sickle being a tool to cut and to sever. And Scorpio, ruled by Mars, Mars rules, is the god of war, and it's the god of cutting and severing, and it requires something to end, right? It's cutting in order to end something or to, completely separate, right? There's a separation. And so, yeah, there's some deep cutting energy, especially with Scorpio just already being that too. The two sickle symbols, and Saturn and Jupiter is cutting out. Saturn puts up boundaries, and Jupiter is expanding everything it touches. It's not necessary. It's normally good things and expands on good things, but it also, when it's touching these malefics, because this is an all malefic aspect besides Jupiter. Pluto, I guess people consider it a malefic, but it's an intense planet. We have Pluto and Mars being the rulers of Scorpio, and then we have Saturn, and those are the malefic planets. So that Jupiter is kind of like blowing up the malefic energy as well. Malefic being bringing of perhaps hard times, of challenging times, as opposed to good fortune, bad fortune. So there could be money problems right now. Obviously, we have a lot of money problems in the government, and we have the tariffs, and we have the government shut down, and Taurus and Scorpio both are very deeply related to banking and money and crypto and all these different things, like money exchanging. Energy exchanging is Scorpio's thing. Taurus is the material exchanging. And so paying attention to that, protecting our resources, remembering that there is a divine source of abundance that we all have access to at all points. And I hope everyone has everything that they need out there. And I know things are crazy. I mentioned in the last video that I made that the SNAP benefits happening right around Uranus moving back into Taurus is just absolutely, shocking, obviously, and too textbook when it comes to Uranus and Taurus being, shakeups in food systems and money as well. So just in general, resources being limited and it being a shocking occurrence for all of us. And it's still uncertain, and it's still causing a lot of pain and hurt for a lot of people, especially during this holiday season. And whether you celebrate or not, I'm not going to get into that right now. I think we're going to see another year like we have seen, where the truth is coming out about Thanksgiving and about animal cruelty and about the animal agriculture and everything like that. All of these things are being exposed. And, not to mention the files that have been released as well. All these secrets and all these deep, dark truths that have actually just always been hiding in plain sight are really coming to light now. It's like we know that they've always been there, but now we're finally having the light of consciousness be on them, And it's a really beautiful thing. It's not great to see all this stuff. It's kind of like horrible to have to deal with it. But like at the end of the day, I can feel happy about the fact that it's all at least coming to the light, so that we can deal with it and we can hopefully grow and change and learn from what's happened. All the things that have been so traumatic and so intense and so emotional, and like all those things that have happened to us. That's what we have to do, is just figure out how to grow and learn and do better with the future, because every single day we have a choice to live in alignment with our integrity and in alignment with our sovereignty, in alignment with our values. And so that's that, knowing that our life is precious. And Scorpio really knows it faces its own mortality, and it understands that one day it is going to die, and one day all this is going to come to an end. And so what are we doing with our one precious and miraculous life? So I, also, like I said, with the poison aspect with Scorpio, in the stinger being poison and in the right dosage, it can be, a deep healing medicine. When that process occurs, it's a deep purging medicine. So it's not pretty, it's not comfortable, it's not going to make you feel great until after the change is occurred, until that Phoenix rising moment with Sagittarius. And so if there is a purging occurring in your life, letting go of something, letting something die, know that that is the medicine working. And know that if things feel uncertain, you're not alone. We're all with you in this deep uncertainty, and we are learning how to walk through the darkness, and we're learning that we have night vision and we can see through the dark, and we can take the hand of spirit and let spirit guide us through the times where we can't see. And I think that's about all I needed to say with the aspects and with the energy right now. Just know that things are still going to continue to come to light, and it's going to be shocking, and it's going to require deep, lasting change, and really uncomfortable change that a lot of us are going to be resisting. But when we realize that the resistance is just prolonging the transformation that is going to ultimately bring us into a more soul-aligned version of ourselves, then once we finally give up the stubbornness, we're going to look back and wish that we had surrendered sooner. So let's go ahead and pick a rune for this week. Go ahead and like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you like this video and you feel it would resonate with someone, please send it around, and all the likes and subscribes and comments really help a lot. So thank you to anyone who's watching this. And we will pick our rune for this Scorpio new moon. Oh God, okay, so we got Kaunan, Kaunan, which means torch, fire, malady, death, mortality, pain, ulcer. Hopefully this Scorpio Taurus opposition doesn't indicate sudden illnesses or symptoms coming to the surface through the body, and that be a catalyst for our awakening, because that would suck. And I hope that everyone can be well, and I hope that no one has to go through anything bad. But that's like, I'm just gonna give it to you straight as an honest astrologer who also, has normal worries like everyone else about, like, when I read these charts and I see the malefics at work, and it's my responsibility as an astrologer to tell people when the energies are turning up and there is a possibility of bad things happening, and to really truly to just be gentle with yourself and be so loving with yourself. And if you're in a self-destructive pattern and it's time to change, please give yourself that gift of change, and give yourself that gift of self-worth, of understanding that you are worth the effort, and you are strong enough to make the change, and you are strong enough to continue on even after whatever has happened, no matter how horrible it was. And So that is our rune, and now we will draw a card from my Oceanic Tarot deck. I thought it would be good to do a full tarot reading here instead of using oracle, because Scorpio goes deep like that. And the Oceanic Tarot, you know, Scorpio is also compared to like the Marianas Trench and the most like undiscovered parts of the ocean and the dark abysses and caves and, you know, things like that, where things are lurking and there's fear when you think about going into places like those. And so I picked the Oceanic Tarot, and I am going to draw a card for this collective here on YouTube for the Scorpio new moon. What do we need? What card do we need? Okay, perfect. So we're gonna go ahead and go with this one. Obviously, this is the perfect card. The key word is passion. It's the Queen of Wands. And she is... Wands are associated with fire, passion, movement, and creativity. Sounds about like what I was saying. This queen thrives in company and is passionate. So it was actually reversed. So reading this, there's no reverse meanings here, so we're going to intuit the reverse meaning at the end here. This queen thrives in company and is passionate, talkative, and dynamic. She leads by example. Through her work and beliefs, she inspires others to fulfill their potential. In relationships, she speaks from the heart. Communication is vital to her, and she may find it frustrating dealing with people who are closed off from their emotions. As the U card in this reading, the Queen shows it's time to honor your special talents. Follow your intuition to make the best decisions in relationships, works, and project. Keywords are enthusiasm, leadership, creativity, intuition, relationships, strength, and integrity. So with it being reversed, I think maybe now would be a really positive time, like I said, to set your intentions, to really ask yourself what it is you want to do with your life, and know that you have the power to make anything happen, to push past all beliefs of impossibility, and to make your dreams come true. I think that's exactly what the trine is telling us. With Jupiter, it's telling us to push past any false beliefs that we have in our belief systems. And then the Saturn and Neptune conjunction in Pisces is saying it's time to live your dream life, and it's time to really ask yourself, what is your dream? And then, of course, the Scorpio is taking back your power and knowing that you have the power to make things happen, to do magic, to have a magical life and create that and be the co-creator of your life, right? And to know you have so much creative authority in your life. And that's so, with great power comes great responsibility. That's, big. And the last card that I have here on the bottom of the deck is Judgment. The conch shell, first of all, she's an angel mermaid, and she's got her conch shell trumpet. The conch shell is the earliest horn trumpet, sounded to declare war and to herald royalty. In the Old Testament, 7 angels blow their trumpets to mark Judgment Day, on which God judged our past deeds. So with the retrogrades, we could be really going over some old stuff, some really old stuff. And the mermaid angel, calling on her conch shell, raises memories from the deep, asking us to review our past actions before moving on. Self-reflection. It's time to revisit the past and take stock before you move on. before you transform into this new thing, tying up all the loose ends. You may muse on happy memories or discover that there's unfinished business, so you might find yourself being in touch with someone from the past or revisiting an old situation before you find answers. At this time, you'll also be judging yourself on your past actions. Did you do the right thing? An additional meaning of the card is spiritual connection, linking with those in spirit, guides, angels, and loved ones. Just like what I said. If you feel the need to give a person a second chance or return to an old situation, now is the time to decide. If you're reassessing the past in other ways, don't be too hard on yourself. I think now is a good time to be re-examining and to review. And I would say any big major decisions, if they're meant to be, they will happen. The November 29th is when this Mercury retrograde is ending. So I would, if you have to make a change, make a change. And I think Uranus is going to be changing things, whether some of us like it or not. But I think if you have the power to put it off, you will know when the right time is to change things. And so just trust that. That is going to be the practice, is to trust that you know when to say when on certain things. Keywords: contemplation, self-judgment, review, second chances, guilt, spirituality, memories. Scorpio carries the shame. Scorpio is scapegoated with a lot of shame, and it holds collective shame because people don't want to deal with their shame. They'll just put it off on something else and scapegoat Scorpio and, scorpionic things so that they don't have to deal with it. So I think if we are dealing with the internal shame that society puts on us, that indoctrinated religion puts on us, whatever it was, I think we all have a certain level of that, and dealing with that is heavy, and liberating us from our shame right now, I think, is a big thing that we are going through. So I want to truly thank you for tuning in with us on this video, and we'll be back in another 2 weeks. And I hope everyone stays well during this Scorpio new moon.